When we put up, when we authorized $1 million, it was setting $1 million aside.
Pledge.
This is my money, yeah, we're gonna make available to make this project happen. In my mind, I was thinking in terms of, intersection improvements, things we can do that will, the township can kick in to, do the reconstruction, demolition, part of that, okay? Arguably, of course, this plan that we're talking about is part of that. My problem is, why are we doing this alone? That was never part of the discussion from, when we did this, when we pledged $1 million. And that was one of the questions we had, or I had on that. Are we spending this money now? The answer was no. There's going to be future votes as that money comes up. Okay, well, here's the first future vote on that money. And, after I thought about it, $319,500 is quite a chunk of change. And I'm thinking, if the business owners, so the problem is, as you know, it's 11 business owners, I think like 6 of them, some quantity, have the veto power. And I'm not, I guess based on the history and what I've heard of these business owners, or at least some of them, 1 or 2 in particular, and it only takes 1 veto power, that there's a reason to be less than confident that this is going to easily go through. And I don't want to be, spending almost $320,000 of the taxpayer money to be then, well, we tried, but we failed. And in terms of it being, not out of the general fund, I get that, but you got the fungibility of money. We can spend this same money on other things. We buy police cars. We can pave roads. There's a lot of things we can do that would replace other spending out of the general fund. So, it just comes down to, why aren't the 11, if the 11 business owners don't think $319,000 is a good investment, or $29,000 each, if they don't think $29,000 is a good investment, and this mall property, which they are directly have stakeholder membership in, why the hell do we think it's worth $319,000? Those are the problems I'm having with this.
Ms. Ayers, you want to chime in at all? What do you think?
I'm certainly happy to follow whatever direction the board wants to take. So what I have heard up to this point in time is that we've taken an approach up to this point in time of let them all atrophy and we'll figure it out when we get to that point. What I have heard from community members as well as this board is saying that that's no longer an acceptable course of action. We don't want to continue to see this mall get worse, and that really the gateway to our property in our area should not be a rundown mess. So what this does in my mind is start the process. In my opinion, and it's my opinion only, is that up to this point in time, the problem we've had is that the group of ownership there are in the same boat because they all own the same property, but nobody's rowing in the same direction. And so there has to be some intervening force in my mind that's going to help get everybody rowing in the same direction. So before you could even get 11 owners to say, hey, I'm going to contribute 29,000, or apologize, I'm paraphrasing the number, together, they all have to be rowing in the same direction. We don't get there without some intervening force. And, if we are deciding between, do we want to take action and start moving this process, or are we at a point where we want to continue to sit it out and wait and see what happens? I think both can be viable options, but it's a question of what your tolerance is for sitting around and letting it get worse first. I don't think business owners are going to do this until we have some intervening force to help them get in the same direction. What this does is, in my mind, is to help push everybody in the same direction and get them rowing in the right way together.
Trustee Becker, I will share this from my history and time on the board, predating when you gentlemen both joined and came on. There is no transition plan or written plan that's handed off and here's established and here's a master plan, right? It'd been nice when the mall went up for auction earlier this year, because maybe it would have brought the right investors in to get engaged. But I will tell you that the leadership with the former board at least acknowledged and stated explicitly 100% of the ARPA funding should go into the mall redevelopment as a public-private partnership. It's the only way to get it done. So I know you've relied heavily in the past on talking to the former administrator occasionally on some of these economic development type of questions, Mr. Ken Geis. That is literally word for word how he described what should happen with ARPA funds, and a public-private partnership for the mall is 100% where that should go. So if it's a philosophy approach that you have a concern with, but I think from a practice of doing business where the rubber meets the road here and delivering for our constituents, 50,000 residents and 100,000 that come in and through here, and being able to have an most economically viable product that brings in the different types of entertainment and opportunities that doesn't overly burden and tax our police and fire. We've got to show leadership, and we've got to step up. And sometimes it's obviously uncomfortable environments, but that's what it is. We've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable sometimes. And this is one that I feel very confident with our staff, with our board here, Trustee Becker, Trustee Dills, that can be an exciting time. We're going to be able to navigate and overcome any hurdles or barriers. If you identify something you think's a failure, or could potentially be, it's going to be an opportunity to speak up and get engaged. But we're going to be able to put together something that is a significant deliverable here for the community. And I share frustration that you'll say it's still the same pot of money if it's government money, but Port Authority and County Economic Development, they verbally said that, discussions I had with them, they want to make it their top priority, and said, well, hey, we're looking at pledging some funds. They put their heads in the sand, and they want to be there to support. But I at least view this as, if we can chart the course with the deliverables, with the plan, then being able to bring in the other additional partners is where you can get that more long-term return on investment. So I'd say it's not something to be short-sighted on right now. It's finite. I mean, it's kind of a pessimistic outlook in total. You're basically saying, I don't want to spend $319,000 and be left with, I spent $319,000, now nothing else happened. I want to say, we put $319,000 into it, and $1.5 billion of investment came in. You're never even going to think about the $319,000. So it's the philosophy in which you want to approach this and tackle it. But that's where my comfort is. At the end of the day, I know we're going to have something. We're going to have significant community feedback and engagement, which this community has been, begging for. Across the board. It's the initiatives. We've got the website coming on, the initiatives we've got with the Park and Rec Board. What a fundamental, great way to have community engagement and get feedback on what the community cares about. The survey responses, I was surprised with, honestly, how short the survey was out there, and that it got legs and had, several hundred more than I thought would be answered to. So, just like Natasha Adams was speaking about the town halls for West Claremont, it's grown and grown and grown. We got to give people a reason to want to positively engage in the community and know that their voices are heard. When they know that their voices are heard, they engage. I think we can share, sentiment from regular people that I see, that attend these meetings all the time, and their history of attending meetings. But I hope that helps any of your concerns. But that's where I feel confident with moving forward with this and executing and not delaying, and primarily also to the fact of that's a morale killer, and I'm not going to do that to the staff and team. Give them resources, clear the way. It's my job, not to get in their way and become a barrier. I don't want to demotivate them, and if I pull the rug out from under their feet, I feel like that'd be demotivating. I know